I am so excited that we are coming back on live. Today we're going to be talking about 5 different tips of working from home.
So
with
I'm
your
sure,
kids.
yeah. So I'm sure many of you, maybe not by choice, are now working from home, right? And this is one of those things that we work with people who work from home, or people who maybe want to work from home, different kind of situations. And I find is many of us love the idea of working from home. Like, it sounds great, it has all this flexibility and all this stuff, and it is great. But especially if you're a family, if you're not a single person working at home, that's obviously a different experience than if you're married, or you have roommates, or especially if you have children, is things challenge. And right now, your kids are not in school either.
Right.
Because if you were working from home and you sent your kids to school, well, that's a different experience. But right now, I assume many of you have everybody at home right now. So go ahead and tell us. Like, if you've got a funny story, I'd love to hear, like, what's going on when you've been trying to be on a Zoom call. Because I'm sure all of us have gotten way more familiar with Zoom and Hangouts and stuff than we ever used beforehand. But we wanted to take a little time because I feel like we get asked the same questions over and over again. If you don't know us, my name's Adam, this is Angela.
Yes.
We've been working from home together full time for about 5 years now.
Yes.
And part-time before that, we were building kind of side gig stuff. And so we know something about working with kids, because we have a 6-year-old, 1-year-old. So you can imagine
it's crazy.
The games that had to be jumped through to have this video right now. You just can't imagine.
Lots of bribing.
Yeah, lots of stuff. There might be sugar involved later. I don't know. So we tried to spend some time. We did some brainstorming, thinking about, like, what are some of the best things we've been able to do, and that we've also seen other people successfully implement that might make this easier for you.
And even during this time right now, it's a struggle than it was a month ago, because in part of our routine, which is going to be the next thing, part of our routine was that we were keeping the kids pretty active outside of, we do homeschool, but that doesn't mean we're at home. And so that means that we would go to the museum, and we would go to the park, and we would do all this stuff, and that would let them release a lot of tension and energy, and a lot of that isn't happening. And so we're having more struggles within the girls, fighting and everything. And I feel like a lot of it is just because they're not getting out of the house like they normally were. But the number one thing that we feel like helps is to have a routine. I feel like we are not really we are not the schedule type where it's like 12:10 to 12:30, but have a routine.
Because you say routine, not a schedule.
Right.
A lot of people say have a schedule. Kids like schedules. That's true. And some people really thrive on a schedule. Some people don't. But in a routine is that you may have some things that you're doing that in the morning you do this. And then we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this. And that helps your kids understand the flow of your day, right? But they're also understanding that this helps build those kind of pathways in your mind. So kind of the flow of your day. This will help be easier with your kids. And this, like with getting up, with going to school, if you're making lunch and you have that routine you go through, just because you're at home and you have your kids at home, you want to have some sort of a routine.
Yeah.
I don't even care what it is. We've talked about before, we're kind of night owls by nature. So we tend to not start early in the morning. We tend to start in the late morning. We do school stuff. And then we usually work in the afternoon, and sometimes in the evening as it suits us. And it just depends on what works best for you. So give some thought to that. And as you find your routine, try to refine that a little bit over time.
And this usually helps with expectations with your kids. So they know, okay, during this time, I'm going to have reading, or I'm going to do something that a lot of the times our girls play together. But, sometimes Adeline's reading, Annalie's playing with dolls in her room. And during a certain amount of time, okay, this is the time that I need you to entertain yourself. And so that goes really well with the expectations and having a routine.
And I think part of that comes into this next one really good is it all sounds good. Make your routine, find your routine. Well, you probably have, depending on the kind of job you have, because almost all of us are working from home unless you're essential. And if you are, thank you.
Yes.
You're awesome. We're really grateful for you. But for many people, you're working from home and you're trying to figure this out. So having that routine, you may not be able to set your routine. That may be coming from someone else on certain meetings you have to do, the certain amount of time you're supposed to put in. So realize you have some constraints. But one thing you can do is, once off that routine and the requirements you have, think about specific blocks you can have for work. And we realize that you realize it or not, you've had a block of time for work for your career, right? You get up and you go to work, and that's your block where you do your work there. And for the most part, we get our work done. But you also know that your job was also full of meetings and traveling to and from stuff and answering email and doing things that do not have to be done right at that time, right? You all know this. We all have extra work, things that, you don't even call it time wasters, just stuff that has to be done.
Yeah.
Training videos, stuff you have to do. But blocking some time when you're at home and saying, all right, this is my routine that works best for me, and this is going to be work time. And for a lot of people, that might be, 9 to noon. I don't know. I do know that that's when we tend to like break Schoology and some of the online platforms.
Yes,
is they get really busy from like 9 to noon for doing schoolwork, especially. And we break the internet every day. They seem to be getting a handle on it. I think things are getting better. But what do you find works best for you blocking time, Angela?
I hear a lot of people, if you aren't a night owl and you're an early bird, then waking up 2 hours or 1 hour before your kids, then that's a really good time so that you can have your morning coffee. You can get some uninterrupted time done, depending on how old your kids are. And then a lot of times, if you can pick, an hour to 2 hours, like I said, a lot of times we'll do like an afternoon kind of time with our kids. It's like, okay, you're not doing school. You can entertain yourselves for a little while, an afternoon slot. And then after the kids go to bed, and again, it depends on, you might not be able to do a call after the kids go to bed, but maybe, you can write an email or catch up on some things like that where you can do it.
Yeah, I'm a person that likes to plan out my next day. I tend to do that at night when the kids go to bed.
Usually at 11:30.
That's one of those things that, that's just my flow is because Angela and I, if we decide we want to watch something, we may do that in the later evening when we finally get everybody down. But I find I like to think through my day. It just helps me start my morning off better. So it's nothing big, but I like to think, what do I have on the calendar? What do I need to have done?
And
that way I don't wake up stressed out.
A really good, that can go back to having, but I've heard that being called like a 6 list where you do it the night before, you write down the 6 things you need to do the next day. And then whenever you have that time block set, the 6 things you need to focus on. And so that you get those 6 things done. And then there are always, it's like the A, the B, and the C sort of priorities. Make sure you get your A stuff done. And then if you get all those done, then you can look at the B stuff.
And keep in mind, guys, you all know that when you were in your regular work environment, you had huge amounts of time waste that you had to deal with. One of those advantages of being from home is in many ways you can actually be a lot more efficient. You can get more done in less time. This is the same reason that typically when you probably are finding this, when you're homeschooling your kids, is often you can get through what would have been an 8-hour day in, say, 3 hours of relatively focused work, and then you're done. And that's one of the advantages people talk about with homeschool is most kids can do that because you're able to tailor exactly what they're doing. They can be more focused and they're not moving around and having the distractions, and they just get it done. The same way as you block that time, I find that you could probably get 8 hours of work done in 3 or 4 hours.
I've heard
it just depends on
yeah.
what you're doing. And I find that's generally true. So, but make sure you block some time, whatever that looks like for you.
So the next thing works well if your spouse is around, but this can work at night. Maybe you do have a spouse that is a essential, and so when they get home, maybe there can be some trading, but taking turns with your spouse. So there are definitely times where it's like Adam's block for work, I'm with the kids. And then it's like, okay, after that we switch. And it's also good mentally because sometimes we need a mental, break from, the kids and everything. And so that's something that we've been doing for the past 5 years is that there is a trading for time that we do, but the kids end up getting a lot of individual attention that way. And so that has worked really well for us, but obviously that doesn't work all the time because sometimes you're not both at home.
Well, and this may be unique to right now is I know a lot of my friends have both spouses at home and generally they don't have both spouses at home.
Right.
And that can be good in that you get to be together, but you're also, because you've disrupted the way you normally do things, you're having to relearn this stuff. So I found that taking turns has really helped because I used to go and, I teach at our homeschool co-op and I do a few things like that with, I do some tutoring and things like that. And that used to be a go and do kind of thing. Well, now I'm doing that here. So I have to have that in my schedule. That's my block of stuff I do.
Uninterrupted though, too. So.
And I have to try to be professional, right? I mean, I'm not wearing pants, but I'm just kidding. So I say that's the big joke. Watch the Good News Network with John Krasinski if you want to see great jokes about that. But working through that and being able to swap with your spouse, that's something unique right now that you can do. So if that applies to you, definitely take advantage of that. And this may be a case of trying to look at your calendars like so many of us do. But now we're just thinking, what's the best way to utilize our focus and our time that we get our family time and we get our work done and we don't kill each other in the process. So
this is something that we actually had on our dream board for our house, because previously we had a house that didn't have an office, and we had turned our dining room into an office. And that may be where you are now, and that's okay. But something that has helped us is to have a specific place for work. Now, I would say I do a lot of work from my phone, but like if I'm going to do a live video or something like that I want to use the computer, or I want to write a blog post or something like that uses a little bit more computer work, I have a place and I can close the door.
Yeah, video editing, recording for the podcast. Video calls, like I'm sure you've all found that you're trying to do these Zoom calls and these things. And the real challenge is, how do I get somewhere where it sounds halfway decent, where I don't have like stuff all behind me and it's not crazy all the time? Because that's how, if you're anything like us, that's how it feels sometimes. So for us, that was on our dream board to have an office. And you can't see it, but this room has a door, which was like, I need a door that I can close. Now, if you don't have that, there's still a lot of power in. This comes back to the blocking, is if you're going to block time for work, it's really good, especially because most of us are not used to working, like really getting stuff done at home. We're kind of used to doing a little work at home and mostly having like leisure and family time and fun at home, right? That's good. That's what home is for. But if you're going to try to do real work, it's really helpful to say, this is the workplace. We do the same kind of thing when we're doing homeschooling. We try to have the dining room table is where we usually do homeschool. Now, you can do homeschool anywhere by definition, and we do that sometimes. But I think there's a lot of power in the kids knowing when we sit at the table, this is where we do homeschool, and we sit our bottoms on the chair and we do the work. And the same way for me, that I know if I'm sitting in this chair and I'm sitting in front of here, I'm doing editing, I'm recording, I'm doing video conferencing, I'm doing work.
Responding to comments.
Yeah, responding to comments. I'm writing emails. We're writing blog posts. We're doing all the stuff that goes into that business. There is something powerful about just having some geography. Now, for many of you, that could be the dining room table. It could be like I have a side desk over here. Like I see a lot of people have a small desk that's maybe even in the living room. I don't know, wherever is place. So give some thought to that. It doesn't have to be, you don't need to spend a lot of money. You don't need to jump through lots of hoops. Just look around your space and what can you do? For some people, I know this sounds silly. If you've got a decent sized closet, you might think about a closet.
I was going to say, we have had, at first, before we were parents, I was in school, you were working full time, and we did have a closet office where we would close it up. Yeah. And that was something that
it sounds silly, but if you've got like a pretty decent like guest closet or something, or even your master closet, some people have different layouts. You have 2 closets, maybe turn one into a tiny office. I've seen people turn a closet into a baby room or into a baby bedroom. I have a friend who did that. Get creative. And especially in this time where you're thinking maybe you've got a month, maybe you've got 6 weeks, I don't know, of how long you've got this. It would be worth thinking about.
You need some privacy then.
And it'll help you be more efficient and help you be in game mode when you go in there. And also it'll help your kids understand some boundaries that, hey, this is mommy's work time. This is where I need to be to get this done.
Which the girls know when they come to this door. That if
the door is closed.
Before we started this, Annalie came to the door and she looked. We have a window, so she looked in the window, and so I had to tell her we weren't recording yet. So then she came in, but they know that if the door's closed, there's a reason why we closed the door, and so some of that is just having expectations and boundaries, and so your kids understand what's going on. You need to work, they need to do their schoolwork, and so. Just laying it all out so that there's no questions. So the last one, everyone, just be flexible during this time. And obviously that's something that we wrote a blog post, I don't know how many years ago, that it was some tips that we've learned about working from home. And one of the things on there that we learned is that, we had to learn how to be flexible because every day looks different. sometimes the kids don't sleep very well and then they're grumpier. And so sometimes you have to, change your schedule and maybe do something like the girls did their math in the bouncy house this morning.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that picture. It was really cute.
So sometimes, especially whenever, there's just a lot of more stress and different things, and the kids can feel that. And so be a little bit more flexible with them. Obviously, people need to work. Homeschool needs to happen or school needs to happen. So you can't just throw everything out. But yesterday afternoon, it was too cold to go on a walk. We try to go out on a walk because that's part of our mental break from being at home. And I feel like it really helps, but it's been too cold the last 2 days. And so yesterday we did a bear hunt, scavenger hunt, because people have put the stuffed bears in the windows. Do some fun stuff like that, whenever you can tell, like, okay, we need to have a break. Let's do something outside of the home or outside of our normal routine.
And there's the great saying, I feel like this is patent, but correct me if I'm wrong, but no plan survives first contact with the enemy. You can have the best plan in the world. You can have the best routine, block time. You made a plan. You got everything worked out. And the first day you try to implement it, something is going to go bananas wrong.
Yes.
And you're going to have to change everything and move it all around. So being flexible is the most important thing you can do right now. Is realize some of that is having some grace on yourself, realizing that your whole situation is kind of goofy right now. And even if this is something you end up doing more long-term, I'm really curious to see if people are going to end up changing some of their work habits, if they're going to end up working from home like 2 days a week, if that's going to start changing some of our commuting habits. I just really don't know.
I know. That's what I'm curious to know, just because there have been some benefits for having less traffic, less pollution, different things like that. That is a benefit.
Saving a fortune on gas.
To so many people who are now forced to work at home. But then some people may realize, wow, this was something I didn't realize was an option. And I was able to transition, to my workplace being at home. And so that may be something that more employers start to figure out.
So I'll be curious to see. But even in that game, realize that, make the plan, work the plan, but be willing to change the plan. And sometimes you need to go on a bear hunt. Sometimes you need to go on a walk. Sometimes you maybe need to go do a coloring sheet with your kids, right? And that's one of the gifts of being home with your kids right now. And it doesn't always feel that way. Is sometimes I feel like all I would like is some peace and to get my work done. But I'm also realized that I have this time with my kids and my time with my wife that I'm not going to have again, right? So if this is something that you're in for a short season, try to look for those positives as well as the many negatives that we are dealing with. And being flexible will give you chances to enjoy that and to realize that you're working from home anyway and you can't leave. So if you got to do some work on Saturday, oh well, it all kind of works out. It's kind of how we so follow that. We hope this is kind of helpful, giving you some guidelines, some things to maybe help. These are things that have worked for us and for many people we've talked to. As you said, we've done this for a number of years. So I don't think we have all the answers, but we're maybe a little further down the road than some of you have been. And we have picked up a few things. So if there's anything we can help with, if you've got great suggestions, things that have worked for you, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear. If you've got questions or things that we might be able to help with, send us a message. We're happy to help. We're happy to share whatever insights we have, whatever small they may be. But that's this is what we do, and we're happy to share all those whatever tips and insights we can.
So I put together a work from home guide where I have a whole bunch of different resources, even like a routine, a way that you can manage a power hour, something like that, like a focused time of work, especially if you are someone who is trying to build an online business. Anyways, if you want that, work from home resource guide, just say the word guide. I can send it to you. If you are listening to this on the replay, we're so excited that you tuned in, and tell us, what was the question that you asked at the beginning? What's a funny story that you have right now from maybe being at home all together as a family?
Yeah, I'm enjoying these so much right now. And again, that's finding the joy in a crazy situation we're in right now. So appreciate you guys. Have a fabulous day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to The Family Hustle with Angela and Adam Parker. We appreciate you guys being here.
If you're listening, don't forget to take a screenshot and share it into your stories and tag us at Grassfed Mama.
Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast player of choice. That helps other people find out about what we're doing, and it's the best thing you can do to help us grow the podcast.
Hey goal getter, are you ready to stop having to chase after people only to realize they aren't even interested in what you have to offer? You spend months trying to build rapport and get to know them, and then they never seem interested in buying. What if you could attract your ideal customer to you and have them reaching out for more information about your business and what you have to offer? If this sounds like something you want more info on how you can put into practice, join our Attraction Marketing Bootcamp, where we take 5 days to dig deep into discovering what your ideal customer wants and how you can be the most attractive to them through branding and developing a customer journey. Over the 5 days, you'll have worksheets and videos to guide you through this self-study. To learn more, head on over to grassfedmama.com/attractionmarketing. And now back to the show.